Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be going over some of the most famous hype trains, prospects, currently in the UFC nowadays. Some of these have been checked, but I don't believe the hype train has ended, merely derailed. And you're going to see in a second what I mean by that. I'm going to be putting them into a tier list from absolute fraud that is going to crash and burn the moment they fight a fighter that I believe is in that championship caliber, to fighters that I believe are either going to be the future of their divisions, or future of the UFC as a whole in this next generation that's about to come in. With that out of the way, let's get started. First fighter we're going to be going over is Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar Nurmagomedov is set to fight Corey Sandhagen, and I'm just going to say it right now. Umar has a really solid chance to jump the rankings right here. In fact, there is a scenario where if Umar is able to beat Corey Sandhagen, and Merab is able to beat Henry Cejudo, Umar might be next for the title. The fact is the UFC does not want Merab to fight for the title, let alone become a champion. Because Merab made a lot of things very difficult for them. And to be honest with you, I don't mind it. Merab is kind of like top 3. Like, listen, as a person, he seems like a cool dude. I'm sorry. You start to lose sympathy from me when you have ended one of the legends of the sports in Jose Aldo's career and title aspirations. And the moment you do that, you throw away the title shot that they offer you. The fact is if you don't want it, don't take the fights from people that actually want it. It is the strangest thing that somebody who I believe would beat Aljamain refuses to fight him because they're best friends. I'm sorry, now we're in a situation where if you lose, the UFC is going to bury you in the rankings, and I think that's a pretty solid possibility. I can also see a scenario, say Ilya beats Volkanovski. I can see Umar Nurmagomedov fighting Merab Dvalishvili in hopes that Merab loses so they can completely disregard him from ever getting a title shot in his career. And to be frank with you, if you are the one that turns down a title shot, I don't care to see you fight for one. Now for Umar Nurmagomedov, here's the thing. If he loses to Corey, which I think he can, I think he's still going to become a champion. I see a lot of potential in Umar Nurmagomedov. At his absolute height, I can see him becoming a champion at bantamweight. The one thing that's keeping him from the future, I would say, these Dagestani fighters don't fight for very long. That's my biggest complaint about them, is the fact is right when they're like in their prime and they're really dominant, they just don't fight for as long as that I would like. Now, if he can, make some changes, fight for a long time, threaten to go up a weight class, then I'll put him in that future category and might put him in there at the end of the video. I think the potential is there, unless some stuff happens in his career that would be very tragic. Next up, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Listen, he is a problem. First person to ever submit Wonderboy. You have rumors that Shavkat's going to be fighting Colby Covington. I think he destroys Colby Covington. I think Shavkat has a really good chance at beating Bilal. I think he beats Leon. I know that sounds like a glaze, but I've been saying it right now. Shavkat Rakhmonov has been finishing people since the start of his MMA career, and even in the regional scene, bro was beating people who would beat people who went into the UFC. Some of the people he fought in this his amateur career or early pro career later went on to go into the UFC, Bellator, 1FC. That's how good Shavkat is. So when the fact that he's kept this 100% finish rate through all these opponents, I'm going to say he is going to be, at the bare minimum, the future of welterweight. I will say this right now. If there is a guy currently in the roster that I believe could dethrone GSP's reign over welterweight, I believe that man's going to be Shavkat Rakhmonov. Bro is going to be the future of welterweight, bare minimum. Ilia Topuria. High potential. The thing is, there's another thing that I got to put against Umar, and I think I am going to keep him in potential. He's not very charismatic. If Dagestani fighters could talk on the mic, bro, they would run everything. It's actually kind of tragic. Ilia Topuria, yes, borderline delusional. Bro is making a movie called Road to the Belt that is set to release right after UFC 289, and he's confirmed that the only thing that they're waiting for is the ending scene of him holding the belt, becoming champion. If that is not peak confidence delusion, I don't know what is. He's also talked about that he doesn't want to let Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez, or Brian Ortega fight for a belt ever again in their careers. Fighting Conor McGregor. I think they're going to do Sean O'Malley if Ilya can win. I just think that's where the UFC's going right now. I think his potential is absolutely insane. And the only thing that keeps him from the future is I don't think he'll reign over featherweight for a very long time. All this stuff that he's talking about, he strikes me as a dude that he's going to get a few title defenses, probably 2, and then go up to fight at lightweight. That's what I feel from Ilia Topuria, and it's the same. I hate this double champion thing that's become the standard. I'm going to say potential's very high, though. Probably, highest potential. Next up, Paddy Pimblett. Fraud. Listen, and I've said this multiple times. People have, left comments. I assume that they're either UK fans or Paddy fans. Let me make something clear here. I don't think Paddy is as bad as people say he is. But here's the problem. People in his division that are younger than him, hungrier than him, do exactly what he does, but way better. Think of it like this. Do you think Paddy Pimblett would ever beat Arman Tsarukyan? No. Arman Tsarukyan's 26 years old. Paddy Pimblett's 28. I understand that he hasn't reached his prime yet, and we are going to get some more fun fights out of Paddy Pimblett. He's going to have to fight Arman Tsarukyan at some point if you believe he's going to be in that title picture. The problem is you have a lot of fighters that I believe beat him. Like Drew Dober. I think Drew Dober beats him. Matt Frivola beats him. Renato Moicano beats him, and I think that's going to be the next fight to make at UFC UK. Either a fight night or a numbered card. I think that's next. And to be honest with you, I think Paddy loses to Renato Moicano. I think he has the star power that a lot of people that have the talent, but not the stardom, they want that, and I think that puts a target on Paddy. I don't think he's going to make it very far, if I'm going to be honest. It's the same. The problem is he's doing it at 155, the most competitive division in the UFC outside of maybe bantamweight. If he could magically gain 20 pounds of muscle, I think he could do very well at 170, but not at 155. Fraud. He's going to get fraud checked. Sean O'Malley. Now, admittedly, it's kind of weird to put Sean O'Malley on here because he's already become champion. But because he's talked about becoming the biggest star in the UFC by the end of the year, this is his roadmap. He believes that he's going to dismantle Marlon Vera and fight on either International Fight Week, because I think that's when the rumored Conor McGregor return was. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. I think what's going to happen, Sean O'Malley is going to win a boring decision against Chito Vera. I think Chito's too durable. If Ilya's able to beat Volkanovski, Sean O'Malley's going to go up to challenge for a double champion fight. And they're going to try to make O'Malley the biggest star in the UFC. Problem is his stardom isn't as great as people think it is, frankly. Strickland gets more views on average on any video that he puts out than O'Malley does. That's facts, that's numbers, those aren't lying. I'm going to put O'Malley probably... He's going to be a bigger star than Umar, even if Umar beats him. But I honestly think Ilia Topuria, if he plays his cards right, could become a bigger star than O'Malley. But I don't think they're going to have the reign of Savkat. That's another thing with O'Malley. I don't think O'Malley is going to get a lot of title defenses, but here's the difference here. Featherweight, to become the GOAT of featherweight, you need an ungodly amount of title defenses to compete with Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and Jose Aldo. To become the GOAT of bantamweight, you only need 4. There's a scenario where O'Malley defensive balance against Chito Vera. Title defense. He can fight either Henry Cejudo or Merab Dvalishvili. That's another title defense. Umar Nurmagomedov. Corey Sandhagen. Done. That's your 4 title defenses. And those are winnable fights. That's the scenario right here. I could see absolute peak. He's regarded as the GOAT of bantamweight. But Dana White privilege is going to play a factor. I think the potential's very high for O'Malley here. Next up is Bo Nickel. Listen. I'm going to spoil it right now, bro. I'm an American. I like Bo Nickel. I will say this, personality-wise, he loses me a little bit. I think Bo Nickel is Bo Nickel's biggest fan. I think the only person that is a bigger fan of themselves than Bo Nickel is probably Ilya. Ilya made a movie for himself, bro. I'm going to say, honestly, I think I'm going to have to put him in the future right now. Unless somebody can snuff him out early, okay? It's you're going to have to stop this hype train quickly before he does get good. That's another thing one thing that people will come at Bo Nickel for is they're like, well, he hasn't fought anybody. I agree with you, but to be fair, dude has literally just started MMA. and he's already made it this far. Like, that's something that I think needs to be brought up. People that are advocating for him to, well, why hasn't he fought a ranked opponent yet? Because if any other person that is in the position of Bo Nickel, that has had as many fights as Bo Nickel has had, got a ranked opponent, you guys would call it Dana White privilege. This is what I think is going to happen. I think he's going to beat Cody Brundage. And another problem, people don't want to fight Bo Nickel because it's super high risk, and reward-wise, it's not that great. So that's a problem for Bo. I think he beats Cody Brundage, and honestly, I would like to see him fight either Imavov, Joe Pyfer, another person on this list, or Ikram Aliskerov. Those are all fights that I would like to see from Bo Nickel. But in all honesty, if you let him improve, I can see a scenario. He's coming up in a division of strikers as a wrestler that is already better than everybody else. I think he could become the future of middleweight. Not as high a potential as Sovkot, but I'm going to say Bo Nickel's second. Next up, Ian Gary. Okay. I'm going to say maybe, okay? Listen, I have made jokes about Ian Gary on this channel, whole videos roasting the man. I'm going to say this right now, though. Ian Gary is talented. Probably one of the better strikers that we're going to see at welterweight for a minute. I think striking-wise, he can hold his own, but here's the problem. He's coming up in a division with people that have similar styles to him that are infinitely more like than he is. Sovkot and Rachmanov can barely speak English. Sovkot Rachmanov's a bigger star, bigger height potential, better fighter, better grappler, better striker, honestly, than Ian Gary. Jack Della Maddalena has the entirety of Australia behind him. Ian Gary, I feel like part of his strategy was to affiliate himself with so many fighters so he would be able to choose his fighters in a sense. Like, that's one reason I believe he's affiliated with Gilbert Burns. I mean, listen. The fact is he plays nice guy all the way up until he has to fight the dude, and then he starts talking. He'll bring religion into his fight with Vicente Luque, arrest stuff with Jeff Neal, but God forbid we bring up your relationship, and now you're going to threaten all types of shit. Honestly, even if he becomes champion, I think star power-wise, I don't think we'll ever see it. And here's the difference between Ian Gary and Colby Covington. Colby Covington, this kind of messed up, but it's true. There will be a certain amount of people that will respect Colby Covington's heel play because I'll give you some credit for having the balls to say some of the stuff that nobody wants to say. Nobody is going to get behind Ian Gary when he plays the heel because no man is going to get behind potentially getting behind a cuck. That's just a fact. Like, I'm sorry, like Ian Gary either has to play into this character that has been made for him, or he's gonna have to be nice to anybody. And listen, he's now beefing with Rampage Jackson. I think he's gonna have to go play into this character. Next up is Khamzat Chimaev. Okay, I don't know. Let me fix that. I don't know where to put Khamzat Chimaev, honestly. In one mind, I want to put him at super high potential. But at the other side of the spectrum, I can justify putting him in the future. I think for the amount of star power that they're putting behind him, I'm going to put him at the bottom of the future. But here's the thing. I don't think Khamzat Chimaev, the way his career has struck me, even if he becomes champion, I don't think he's going to reign for very long. I can see a scenario where he can, say, beat an Israel Adesanya. Beat a Son Strickland, maybe. Maybe beat Dricus du Plessis. And honestly, I think Dricus actually could beat Khamzat. I think Khamzat's going to have problems with anybody who can take him 5 rounds. And this is where we're getting into the Bo Nickel and Khamzat Chimaev. As crazy as it sounds, listen, Bo Nickel's a better wrestler than Khamzat. Nobody's going to disagree with that. If you disagree with that, what you're telling me is you think Sweden is better at grappling than America, which is absolutely insane take. However, I do believe Khamzat's a better fighter. You see where this is difficult, because Khamzat Chimaev's coming up in a division of strikers when he is a grappler. Favorable matchups. I can see him becoming champion. I'm going to put him in future because I think he does become a future champion, but I don't think he's going to become the super dominant champion that people think he's going to do, because there's also people like Ikram Aliskerov and Bo Nickel that are coming up that if you give them time to improve their striking, I think they're going to fuck them up, honestly. Next up, Muhammad Mokaev. He's so young. Like, that's the biggest thing. I think his potential is very high. I am going to say this, though. He worries me a little bit. Like, when people... Okay. The two fights that get me worried for Muhammad Mokaev was the Charles Johnson fight. And the fight that he had... Oh, my gosh. I'm blanking on his name. The one where he got knee barred really bad, and people wouldn't stop talking about his toughness. Let me tell you this right now. Being called tough in an MMA fight is a backhanded compliment, because on one hand, yeah, you can take pain. On the other hand, you're playing risky and putting yourself in very, very bad positions. The fact is you take somebody that really knows how to break people, and they get you in that same position. Muhammad Mokaev might have just ended his entire career for the sake of, like, just being tough, okay? And I do respect that dog mentality. Next up was the Charles Johnson fight. He got outstruck by Charles Johnson, dude. Like, there's a scenario where you can argue that he lost that fight. Like, it was control time versus getting outstruck pretty easily by Charles Johnson. Like, that's how I'm feeling, dude. Muhammad Mokaev, I think, has a lot of potential in that division, but at the same time, the red flags are a sowing. But I think he's so young, I'm going to put him in, like, potential. Next up, Mike Mallet. He's better than Patty. Bro, imagine... Dude, Neil Magny snuffed out Mike Mallet. I understand Mike Mallet was winning just about every moment of that fight going into it, but at the same time, bro, Neil Magny legit just set back Mike Mallet's career by 2 years. That's what happened. Like, it's going to take 2 years to build up that goodwill in the UFC again. And he gave up. Like, here's the thing. I rarely ever say that, because I, like, that... Saying a fighter gave up, like, you don't know the position that they're in. In that scenario, I am telling you this right now. Gassed, he gave up in the final moments of that fight, a fight that he was going to win. And that sucks, but at the same time, if you're getting beaten up by Neil Magny and you're coming up a division with people like Jack Della Maddalena, Ian Gary, and Shavkat Rakhmonov, at best, you're going to become a decent journeyman in your career. Next up, Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is going to be the future of heavyweight. Like, here's the thing. We're debating right now whether he should get the privilege to fight John Jones. Okay? That's really the discussion right now. Tom Aspinall beat Sergey Pavlovich, the only other person that was coming up in that division that I thought could beat him. And I picked Sergey to win because Tom Aspinall came in injured, trying to go on a vacation, didn't get a single day of training camp in, and won. I don't think people give him enough credit for that. Sergey Pavlovich knew that he was the backup for that fight a full month prior and had half a camp in, 4 weeks in. Tom Aspinall didn't have a single day to do a legit training camp and just was hitting pads on the heavy bag. And Tom Aspinall beat him. Cyril Gane's a one-dimensional striker at heavyweight that barely knows how to grapple. I know he beat Sergey Spivak, but Sergey Spivak and Tom Aspinall are at different levels of grappling. Almeida barely knows how to strike and is a good grappler, and in all honesty should be fighting at 205 and not heavyweight. John Jones isn't going to be in the UFC much longer. Let's say Tom doesn't get the fight John and John retires. John retires, Stipe retires. Tom Aspinall, I'm going to say it right now, unless something crazy happens, in the next 5 years, Tom Aspinall is going to be regarded as the GOAT of the heavyweight division. That is my bold prediction. You can come back to this later. And when it finally does happen, I'll clip this and put it on YouTube. But I'm telling you this right now. Tom Aspinall, I do believe, will become the heavyweight GOAT in 5 years. Next up, Joe Pyfer. Okay. I'm going to say a solid maybe. Okay. He is either a maybe to low potential. Like, okay. I don't know, honestly. Because Joe Pyfer, I think, hits harder than anybody in that division, and it's not even close. You can argue the hardest hitter in the... Listen, I don't know why people are calling cap on Joe Pyfer beating Francis Ngannou's punch record. And I don't know why people are insecure about it. It's a weird thing to argue about. Joe Pyfer broke it not once, Not twice, but 3 times. Over multiple days. They've had to reconfigure the machine so the numbers can go above it. Like, they've examined he used the same machine that Francis used. And bro beat his record 3 times. He hits harder than Francis. He's Ginzer. He had a rough childhood. If you've watched my horrible MMA bases cursed edition, bro already has an abusive father. And bro's Ginzer. Like, I think that makes sense, okay? I'm going to say maybe purely because, again, he's coming up in a division of grapplers. I need to see a little bit more of his grappling. I understand he won off a submission. However, he also beat the shit out of that dude and then arm triangled him to sleep. Like, I'm very excited to see his fight with Jack Hermanson, because if he can sprawl, keep that fight standing, and just beat up Jack Hermanson and even, like, out-grapple him in some exchanges, then Joe Pyfer goes up to our potential. But because I haven't seen the Jack Hermanson fight yet, and that hasn't happened yet, I'm going to put him a high maybe. Saraputin Magomedov. Okay. I am going to be nice right now, and I'm going to put him in questionable. He's almost in fraud. Let me tell you why. Saraputin Magomedov, you are not 185 pounds. You are not a natural middleweight. You are a welterweight. Do not fight at 185 pounds. You are going to go in there and you are going to get wrestle-fucked by Bo Nickel, Ikram Aliskerov, Hamzat Chimaev, and Marvin Vettori. You are not winning these fights. Let's go down to a division that is now being populated by strikers. Welterweight and middleweight have switched what their division is going to be dominated by. Welterweight's going to become a division of strikers, and middleweight is going to become a division of wrestlers. Let's get out of that division. You're young. You have one eye. Let's maximize growth here, and let's fight at welterweight. I would like to see you fight Ian Gary just because I think that would be really, really funny. So yeah, let's say this. Saraputin learns a little bit of wrestling, and he goes down to welterweight. I'm going to put him in questionable whether he could become a, maybe a champion. One day. Maybe a champion one day. I think Ali Abdelaziz would treat him well. So I'm going to put him in questionable. Next up, Tatiana Suarez. Okay. I don't mean to be that guy. I'm going to put I think all the women fighters are going to be put in maybe, purely because women's MMA has a very nasty habit of having undefeated, like, women's prospects, and then the moment they fight somebody that even has, like, a little bit of championship caliber skill, they'd absolutely fold, and it looks like they've never won a title in the entire life, okay? So yes, I'm going to put her in low maybe, purely because she could either become the future of the UFC or an absolute fraud. So I'm going to do the average of the two and put him in maybe. I'm sorry, that's got to do it. Next up, Movsar Evloev. Dude, I don't want him to become champion, I'm going to be real. He should have lost to Arnold Allen. Like that, he should have, like, Arnold Allen, the Weasel said that. What? Understand this. For the Weasel to go against somebody that is in, like, type of Dagestani and root for somebody else, that's crazy. I love the Weasel. At the same time, there's a little bit of a bias there. Movsar Evloev, one, should have lost the fight because those were not illegal knees. Like, the ref got it wrong again. The judges robbed Arnold Allen with a couple questionable decisions on that card. I'm not talking about Son Strickland. I'm talking Movsar Evloev versus Arnold Allen is a robbery. Strickland versus Drickus is not. I'm sorry, close fight. But there were fights on the prelims that were ruled a split that should not have been ruled a split because the dude was Canadian. So I'm going to say Movsar Evloev. I'm going to say low maybe. I think he'll be the bottom of maybe. Listen, he's undefeated. I think he's going to be the decision magician. Get one finish and I'll put you in very, very low potential. But in all honesty, I'm going to put you in maybe. I think you're talented. But at the same time, you should have lost to Arnold Allen. Next up, Blanchfield. Listen, I'm going to put her right next to Tatiana Suarez, women's MMA. I've already said it before. You can be an undefeated prospect. Go fight for somebody. Go fight for the belt. Undefeated up till then. Absolutely crumble under the presser. And boom, you'll never fight for a title again or never win a title again. So the average of future and fraud is maybe. Next up, Almeida. Very questionable. Questionable. Not the most questionable, but very questionable. The fact is he's a heavyweight that's good at grappling. Like, if you have that, you're guaranteed a ranking because heavyweights really just aren't good at grappling. The heavyweight division is probably one of the most least skilled divisions, pound for pound, to be completely honest. And I'll say this right now. If he can beat Curtis Blades, I will be surprised. He's not beating Tom Aspinall, and the winner of that is looking like they're going to fight Tom Aspinall next, the way things are timing out. And I think Curtis Blades and Almeida both lose to Aspinall. I think questionable because I just don't think his striking's there, and I think the moment heavyweight gets better at grappling, I think he loses. I think Cyril Gane has a pretty solid chance at beating Almeida. That's because of the size difference, and if Gane knows even a little bit of sprawling, I think he wins. Next up, Arman Tsarukyan. He's so young. He's 26 years old. Yes, hothead. Striking's a little questionable. I understand he beat Benil Darius, and I know some people are going to go in the comment section, and how could you say striking's questionable? He was getting outstruck by Joaquim Silva, a guy who, after that, fought Clay Guida and was losing some of the exchanges to that guy. So yeah, forgive me if I'm a little bit skeptical of Arman Tsarukyan. I think Arman Tsarukyan is going to become a champion at some point in his career just because of how young he is. Okay, actually, I understand what I did there. If I put Khamzat Chimaev in the future, I kind of have to put Arman there. I will say this though, Arman, if Arman can beat Charles, he's going to go very far. At the same time, he barely makes the future. I'm just going to put him potential. I don't think he'll become a big star, though. I think Ilya could become a bigger star than him. Next up, Benoit Saint-Denis. How old do you think Benoit Saint-Denis is? I thought bro was 31. No, he's 28. Think of it like this. Yair Rodriguez is older than Benoit Saint-Denis. I don't know why, but whenever I look at Benoit, he always looks so much older than I thought. Now, I'm going to say this, though. I'm going to say maybe. I don't think he becomes a champion. Okay, I'll put Benoit Saint-Denis over Ian Gary. Okay, I'll do that. Benoit Saint-Denis. I think he can beat Dustin Poirier. I think Dustin Poirier is already somewhat chinny from all the wars he's been in. And Benoit Saint-Denis has the power to put him out. I mean, Matt Frevola, I understand skill-wise, Matt Frevola and Dustin Poirier aren't at the same level. But at the same time, if there is a time for Dustin Poirier to lose to Benoit Saint-Denis, it's going to be now. And I think I am going to pick Benoit Saint-Denis to win that fight, honestly. And if he can do that, his potential, his stock is going to go up. But right now, I'm going to say maybe because I don't think Benoit beats Islam Makhachev. But I do think he could become like a BMF champion over lightweight and beat Justin Gaethje. That'd be fun. Next up, Manel Kape. So Manel Kape, I believe his name is Moses now. I know he converted, but for the sake of the video, because I don't know his last name and if he changed it or not, I'm just going to call him Manel Kape. But just know it's probably Moses Kape. I'm going to say Manel Kape, very questionable. Listen, he's based. That's about it. Like, he talked all that shit to fight a relatively boring fight that night. He talks some shit to Israel. I think he's talented on the microphone, but at the same time, to become a champion in that division, you got to beat Moicano, Pantoja, and Royval. And I think he has trouble with all those matchups. I think absolute best case scenario, he beats Amir Albazi and somehow gets a win over somebody like Royval and gets a title shot. I'm going to say very questionable for that reason. Next up, Michael Morales. Now, 16-0. 24 years old. Not the best on the microphone. However, I think potential's there. However, I need to see him fight a few more high-caliber opponents. He did look good against Jake Matthews, though. 24 years old. Welterweight division. Okay, I'm going to put him at the bottom of maybe, purely because I need to see a little bit more, okay? But Michael Morales, check him out. I don't know when his next fight is, but 24 years old in the welterweight division and being 16-0 is absolutely insane. But I want to see him fight a few more high-caliber opponents. And finally, Raul Rosas Jr. Yes, fraud. He's young. I get it. And I know people are going to say, wait a minute, you put Michael Morales in maybe because he's 24 years old. Raul Rosas Jr. is younger than him. Yes, but Michael Morales has power for welterweight. Raul Rosas Jr. barely had power for flyweight. No, not flyweight. Bantamweight. And bro is moving up the featherweight. I'm sorry. He is going to get destroyed at featherweight, okay? Featherweight is an outrageously competitive division, but it just doesn't seem that way because Volkanovski's been running it for so long. But the fact is whenever there's a super dominant champion, and when that super dominant champion either loses or retires, which is going to happen soon, whether you like it or not, the division is going to go in the flux, and there's going to be a lot of really good people that's going to be in that title picture. And the fact is, there's only so long that you can hide Raul Rosas Jr., before he has to fight Yair Rodriguez. Before he has to fight somebody like Movsar Evloev. Ilya Topuria. Arnold Allen. Like, these are all people that I do believe mess up Raul Rosas Jr., and I think that's going to be the end of it. Which kind of sucks, but at the same time, like, what do you want me to say? I don't think he's going to become a champion. I think it's going to end fairly badly, and it's just going to be Raul Rosas Jr. has been with the UFC, one of the youngest signing of the UFC ever, never became a champion. I think he's going to take some damage early in his career that's going to multiply as he grows, and I think it's going to end pretty bad. But hey, I kind of hope I'm wrong here, and the Raul Rosas hype train continues, but at the same time, I'm not super impressed with the guy. But hey, tell me what you think in the comment section below. What do you think about these prospects, hype trains, their placement on the card? Looking at it right now, okay, I am going to move Khamzat Chimaev down to the top of potential and move Ilya Topuria to the bottom of future. I just think Khamzat Chimaev, even if he becomes champion, is not going to reign as long as any of these guys, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. But hey, tell me in the comment section below if you agree. Thank you guys for watching. It helps me a lot in the algorithm. You guys have been subscribing. I'm going to be making daily MMA content. If you have a suggestion for a tier list, news, whatever you want me to cover, put it in the comment section below. I read all your comments. And with that out of the way, adios, guys.